Okay, so this video is going to outline how to use adjustment layers instead of image drop-down adjustments. We would like to be working non-destructively on our images, and the best way to edit your images for brightness and contrast, color, hue and saturation, color balance, curves, etc. is by using adjustment layers instead of the image drop down, fly out from adjustments. The brightness and contrast all the way down to selective color are typically where you may have gone in the past to adjust your image brightness and contrast levels, etc. These are destructive. These will take away image quality and change your image. Now, we can go instead to an adjustment layer from the layers panel. As you can see, when I float over the circle that is half black, half white, it gives me the key hint, create new fill or adjustment layer. And if I click, then you can see new fill layer, solid color, gradient, or pattern are the first three options. The rest of the options, from brightness and contrast all the way down to selective color, that's the same list that we saw under image and the adjustments flyout menu. Now these are non-destructive adjustment layers. So if I simply go to levels and click, you will see that I have been given a new adjustment layer that's called levels. That adjustment layer, if I click on the icon for the layer thumbnail for the adjustment layer, you can see that I can pull the sliders in to make an adjustment to this image. That adjustment, if I turn it off and on, you can see that my original image stays pristine, unchanged. I can turn the eyeball on. I can, if I click on the levels adjustment layer and highlight it, I can change the opacity of that level adjustment. So you can see that the opacity can be changed. We can also use the drop down for the blend mode and multiply if I would like to do that. I can change the properties of the levels adjustment. I'll change this back to normal. And I also have a rectangle that is referring to a layer mask. So watch what happens to the properties. The properties for the adjustment for levels, or if I click on the white rectangle, that is the layer mask for the levels adjustment. Now, the layer mask can be accessed through either way by clicking. Okay. I'm going to press Option while I click on the layer mask thumbnail, and you can see that I've got a full white layer. This is a layer mask, and the mask is completely white. White in Photoshop masking means reveal. If this mask was completely black, I'm going to press Command I. That means I've inverted the mask, Command I. The mask is now completely black. If I navigate back to my image, it's going to show, if I turn the mask on and off, that the mask is concealing the levels adjustment. I'll go back, I'm going to press Option and click. You can see this is a completely black mask. Now, the cool thing about masks is they can be either completely black, completely white, or have shades of gray in between. They can be partially black or partially white, and also have shades of gray in between. So I'm going to grab a paintbrush. I can navigate to the drop down for the paintbrush just by clicking and holding, and show you that the hardness on my paintbrush is, we'll change this to 50%, and my brush is 405 pixels. And you can see when I'm floating over my screen that you can see this is a 400 pixel brush. I'm going to close that window up, and if I were to click with my black brush, you can see that nothing happens. If I navigate to the switch foreground and background colors, or simply press X on my keyboard. X. My black and white have switched. They've been set at the opposing color. Now I have a white brush. If I click on my screen, you can see that I'm using a white brush. Opacity 44%. I'm going to change that opacity. Now I have 100% opacity on my brush. I have a soft brush, so this has a feather around the edge. If I navigate back to my background, you can see that where I have painted with 100% white, you can see that the levels adjustment is being used. I will press Option and open this up again, just so you can see where the mask has been changed. In this area, I was painting with gray. Gray is not a color you would paint with. You would paint with black or white at an opacity, which will give you gray on the mask. Okay, I'm going to press Command A and delete and just get rid of everything that I've just painted. So Command D will deselect. So I've Command A to select all, delete to delete those two brush marks, and Command D to deselect. I'm going to navigate back to my background image and show you that the levels adjustment is not being used, okay, because the black mask is not revealing any of that levels adjustment on the background layer. Okay, Command I inverts the mask, which means that the mask is being used 100%. So this is a really, really important aspect of adjustment layers, the fact that you get this mask. If I want to target areas where I don't want or do want the adjustment to work on, I can paint in and out. So I'm just going to be painting, with black on the table. And I'm painting with 100%. And if I go back to the mask, you can see what kind of painting I've been doing. Okay. Command Z took me back in time one step. Clicking back on the background layer has brought me back to that levels adjustment on the background, using it at 100%. So that's one way of painting or targeting your mask or your masking ability. Another way is to create a selection. So I'm going to create a selection. So I'm using the polygon lasso, and I'm going to do just a quick selection in here. And close that up. So I've got a selection, and I can use my either paintbrush and paint in only where I want that mask to change. So you can see on the mask itself, press Option, you can see I'll deselect. You can see what masking has done. Command I inverts the mask. Going back in, you can see that the levels adjustment is only being used on the tabletop. So masking. Masking is one of the aspects of Photoshop that lets you use adjustment layers non-destructively and target areas that you want these changes to occur, the adjustments to occur. Whenever you create a new adjustment layer, so let's pull one up, like hue and saturation, you always get a mask. So the mask is always present. The mask is always going to be completely white, so it's going to reveal anything that you do with that adjustment. So you can see that my whole image is changing. I'm going to throw this one in the trash for a moment. Whoops. Trash, not duplicate. What I'm going to do first in this case is I'm going to make a selection and then create a mask. So let's go in. I'm going to use the magic wand. I'm going to click and press Shift and click. Click, pressing Shift, and you can see my selection is being added to when I'm pressing Shift. So I've got those 4 selections that are not overlapping. Because I've pressed Shift while I was selecting with the magic wand, I've got that selection, and now if I navigate to the drop-down menu and click on hue and saturation, you can see when I press option, my mask has been created from the selection that I've made. So what will happen when I make that change to the hue and saturation, it will just change the pixels that I selected. Okay. Lightness, saturation, hue, all changed. Either the mask is inverted or not. This is me pressing Command I. Pressing Option brings up the mask, so you can see if you've missed any particular part of the masking. Command click means that I've made a selection of the mask. Command D deselects. Option click on the mask brings you back into the regular view. If you press Shift while you are clicking on the mask, it turns the mask off. Mask on, mask off. Hue and saturation change on and off, levels on and off. Okay, so that is the initial step into using adjustment layers and masks.